Dom Price, work Futurist at Atlassian. My job is twofold. One, how do we help Atlassian scale? But also then, how do we enable our customers? So my job is, as they start to imagine the future and what might be, how do we help activate them, right? Not just thought leadership or telling stories, actually get into their hands and get them trying new ways of working. We've got to accept at some point that work's fundamentally changed. So if you think about system of work, not system as in tool, but if you imagine the operating system of how businesses work, I think we got a taster in the pandemic of how things could be if we reimagined work. I can't tell you the day, but there was at one point during the pandemic, I sat there and I was like, my setup at home is better than my setup ever was in the office. I work in different time zones with different people. I work synchronously and I work asynchronously. And so my realization over the past probably a year or so was I was saving high fidelity conversations for in-person because they felt easier. And I was doing very transactional conversations online, right? That was the thing that I had to find a way of breaking because I was really efficient when I was doing transactions at home, but I was inefficient and quite ineffective if I was trying to run a workshop or I was trying to engage with other people. And so it became this conversation, this thought bubble around how do I be equally effective wherever I am? And what does that mean for the hardware I need and the software I need? I should feel as effective wherever I am because I knew the technology existed. Some of it was me finding that tech. Other parts of me were adapting how I work so that I didn't feel inefficient in some of those environments. It's not a hardware problem and it's not a software problem. It's a problem full stop that can be solved with some parts of software and some parts of hardware. And if you just have one of those, you feel a bit clunky. I have felt ineffective as an individual. The old way of doing it was I'd scroll stuff on paper, I'd then try and migrate that in some form, either take a picture of it, or I'd try and redraw it. Complete waste of time. And so having a tool where I can draw, write, jot things down, scribble, where I can do unstructured work. Now I stay within my context, right? I draw, bang, it's gone, right? I'm sharing it. Someone sends it back, right? So it's more instantaneous. Half my job is working with people that aren't physically in the same space as me. If I do that through words alone, I don't get the message across. If I do that through words and a drawing and a scribble and an arrow and a see this or change that, suddenly you've lifted the fidelity of the conversation. Same time investment, higher fidelity conversation. Right? We're using old school technology and techniques in a new environment and it's not working. When I do leadership, mentoring and coaching, if I arrive with a blank piece of paper, it's paralyzing. Now I say that in words and you go, yeah, okay. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't get you, right? I can give anyone a blank piece of paper, not much happens. And if I just rely on words, there's a huge leap of faith. But if I give them just a little bit of structure, you've directed the conversation. Same time investment, way higher fidelity, right? Virtually every single organization is distributed. And once you're distributed, whether you're office or somewhere else, you have to find new ways of building meaningful connection. So we find that on the team side there, team belonging, team bonding. What I want to know is, now I've built that connection with them in person, we're not going to see each other for 3 months. How can I use your tools to maintain that connection? I might not be able to improve it, but I don't want to see a degradation. So what I don't want to be doing is spending any cognitive load on hardware. I don't want to be spending any cognitive load on software. I don't want to be learning a new tool. I need whatever's in front of me to be as intuitive as possible. And if you think about that, it's why we spend vast sums of money flying people in for what we used to call offsites, right? We spend it because you just give them a pen and paper and they co-design, they co-build together. What we're trying to work out is, in a distributed world, how you do that. And if your only solution is flying people around the world, that doesn't work. It doesn't scale, it's not sustainable, it's expensive, it's bad for the planet, and it's bad for those people. They're away from their families and friends. I want to be great, I want to thrive. So you're like, okay, thriving. So if you're in a distributed world, how can you embrace the fact that maybe we don't all have to be online? Maybe there's a way that they can communicate with me that I digest that in my time, I give my feedback and they digest it in their time. We were sat there going, if all you've got is written word or static images, that's not getting me, right? Everything we do is about behavior change. So Loom gives us behavior change. You can see the person and the demo, right? As I played with last week, right, with the espresso product. I'm in Loom and I'm annotating and recording at the same time. It's like the people are in the room with me, but but I've not spent thousands and thousands of dollars on flights. So if you're in an industry where time to market is important, that means you need to start quickly. You want to start with high confidence you're doing the right thing. And that doesn't mean flying everyone in. It's how can you do that asynchronously and get fast feedback loops. And feedback loops can't just be written word. Written word's fine, but by itself is one-dimensional. It's written word plus visual plus annotation, and then the ability to give that instant high-fidelity feedback. Technology is not my jam, right? What I want is to solve problems. When I buy a product, I don't care where you're at in your journey, right? In the nicest possible way, I need the product to work. So I think from a form factor, it's solid, it's durable, but more importantly, it does the thing it's meant to do, which sounds really simplistic and most people just nod at. And then if you just go and play with any software or any hardware on any given day and ask yourself, how many of the things do the thing they're meant to do? Before I came here, I sat in a coffee shop doing my expenses. I won't name the product, but it is one of the least intuitive products. Now, it works because I can submit my expenses, but it is not a good user experience. And if something has high friction, I just stop using it. Whereas the intuitive nature of Jot, of using the pen, of using the hardware together was intuitive, right? But the bar there is really high. Usable and good experience are actually a really high bar, and that with a solid form factor does it for me. And also I found that it's not too heavy. Having this as a second screen in that environment, because I'm not going to take my giant screen that I've got at home anywhere, having that as a second screen ergonomically is significantly better. And because it's such good picture quality, it's not like I've got a second-rate product. As I do more complex workshops with some quite interesting personality types, some really hard problems to solve, what's the mix of structured versus unstructured, and how can I use something like espresso to bring the room into the conversation? I want to start to explore how I use the tool to do that, because my default is still in-person, pen and paper. Or what are the times I can shelve that and experiment with something like espresso and do so in a way that actually then makes everyone's life easier? One of the biggest struggles in distributed work is shared understanding. Playing with the screenshot, screen grab, and Jot increases my chance of shared understanding, because I've had the conversation live, and if someone doesn't understand, they have a chance to speak up there and then. We fix it instantaneous. Tap, it's there, share screen, I've got the image, and I'm drawing, and I'm annotating, like, I changed this and changed that, and other people are responding. As they're responding, I'm doing my own updates, and then shared it into Slack, right? We've all now got that as a single source of truth, and so it almost felt seamless, because I'm getting instant feedback loops, and it means that when we then end that call and end that conversation, if we all leave with a shared understanding, we can work autonomously, just by having higher signal, less noise.